for me, Monday is typically in my work week. I'd kind of do some just kind of recovering from Sundays and kind of processing what happened and doing some reading and all that kind of stuff. And then Tuesdays I begin to like really look forward to what's going to happen in the week coming up. And part of that is beginning to look towards the sermon space. And so normally, of course, that just is something that I don't really share very much. I usually don't even tell Kelly much about what I'm preaching on beforehand. But I wanted to try something a little bit different this week. And I don't know, maybe it's something that you guys will think was fun and useful. We'll just see, kind of play with it. We're in such a period of experimentation, right? And my thinking was just like we've tried to do more things to make our experience of worship more participatory and interactive, especially in the online days with COVID. I thought it might be kind of fun if we kind of look towards preparing for for worship like that too. Okay, and so just for a few minutes here, I want to kind of share with you, I guess, what it's some of my preparations for what it means to look into the sermon and kind of start working on it. Okay, and you may find that this is kind of interesting and you want to participate and comment on it along the way, or, not, it won't hurt my feelings either way. Okay, all right, so what we're going to do is I'm going to go ahead and switch then to this other window, and which has some of the things on it, some of the tools that I use for preparations, okay? And so really it's just all very, very simply, we have on this side, okay, we've got, so this is the Bible app that I use, and I've tried to increase the size maybe so that you guys can see the text a little bit better. And then over here is an app that I use to write with, and so I just want to take a few notes as we go. And really, we're starting from scratch. So usually when I start with the sermon, we'll take a week, and I should have pulled up this calendar of sermons, and normally I have every Sunday, and then a title, and then a text. Okay, and so this week the title is Calm, and I'll show you where that kind of comes from in just a second. And then I have a text, and really that's it. Okay, so the title has some sort of an idea, but it's really, at this point in the week, it's really open. Okay, we could certainly shift that and do something different if it doesn't work out. But I'm starting with this idea, and let me show you where it comes from. Okay, as I was reading the Gospel of Luke, okay, there's these two stories that are put together. And they're put together in Mark and in Matthew as well. So this is kind of an order that is very similar in the other Gospels. And those two stories that are put together are the story of the Jesus with his disciples on the lake, right? And then the storm comes, and they're afraid. Okay, and then Jesus gets up and he rebukes the wind and the waves, and then there's this, right? It says, it ends with, there was a calm. And then he criticizes them and says, where was your faith? And they're just amazed by this kind of miracle story. It's very, this story shows up in all three of the Gospels, and it's very significant story in describing the journey of the apostles, right? And then right on the heels of that, the Synoptic Gospels, Matthew, Mark, and Luke, all tell a story about Jesus encountering a man who is possessed with demons, so much so that it's like many, many demons. They say that they are a legion, okay, or, crowd of demons. And when they do that, Jesus heals them, all right? And what struck me about these two stories together is that this is the first story is a story about Jesus bringing calm on the sea, and in a real serious way. This second story about the demoniac, this man who has a legion of demons, it's a story about a different kind of calm, right? But a calm inside of a person, and so. That's kind of what I wanted to do, okay? I wanted to kind of play with this idea of Jesus creating calm and Jesus creating peace, okay? And that's really all I've got so far, okay? I know that's where we want to start, but I want to start kind of playing with those ideas. My intention is to really focus the sermon time in this space, starting in verse 26 and following, which is the story of the man with the demons. But in this title, it's kind of a hat tip to the story of the man, or a story of the disciples on the sea with Jesus calming the storm as well. Okay. All right, so that's what's up. So let's start kind of pulling out some things and kind of begin to kind of organize some ideas. And of course, this early in the week, some of these things may make it in the sermon, some of them may not. And I just kind of really want to begin with kind of listening to the text and playing with it and just seeing what kinds of things pop out. We're going to kind of collect some notes about all that, and then start kind of organizing it into something that's maybe a little bit more coherent. We're not really looking for coherence right now. Okay, all these things don't have to fit together because we're just beginning to collect some ideas. So, of course, the sermon, this series, we've been starting with a particular line that an encounter with God changes everything. Okay, and that's why we've selected the story. Right, it's a story about somebody's life that's changing with this encounter with Jesus. And that's kind of where we're starting. This idea of a divine encounter has been kind of the driving force of the series. Okay, and that's kind of what we're looking at, people that have an encounter with God, and particularly in the person of Jesus. Okay, all right. So that being said, so we want to find out what changes. Okay, we want to see what his encounter with God is like, but certainly we want to look towards things that change because of this story. All right. So let's just start off. Kind of pick up our context just a little bit. So we know that the story above this, and we're in Luke 8. We know the story above this is the story about Jesus and his disciples on the sea. Okay, Jesus has begun to have some kind of controversies. I think what I would fill this with, though, the context of this story is that the disciples are. It's their wonder, okay, that they're amazed, a little afraid of what they've gotten themselves into, okay, and that seems to me to be like a really important thing, right? But amazement, okay, and just in the back of my head, even I'm kind of thinking, maybe that shows up in this story here too, right? Like when we get to, let's kind of scan down here real quick, because I think when the Yeah, here it is. Okay, so the people, after this guy Legion is healed, the people of the city come out, right? And it says the people came out to see what had happened. And when they came to Jesus, they found the man from whom the demons had gone sitting at the feet of Jesus, clothed and in his right mind. And they were afraid. All right, so there's something we can kind of play with here, right? So part of the context is the wonder, amazement, and maybe even fear of who Jesus is, right? That he's he has such power within him. That's the sea story. And then we kind of get into the story itself, and that kind of comes back. So that seems to me to be something that's pretty significant. Let's kind of just glimpse real quickly, too. On the other side of the story, we have a story about Jesus encountering this ruler of a synagogue named Jairus. This is kind of the last part of Luke 8. And then this woman who is healed, who has this bleeding issue, right? That's kind of sandwiched in the Jairus story. And again, look, she came trembling and falling before him. Wow. And she's told to go in peace as well. All right, so that peace, calm kind of theme is in there. And that's true. So we kind of scan down a little bit further. Let's see, when Jesus heals this man, she's died. Jairus' daughter's died, but Jesus raises her from the dead. And then we get again, look, her parents are astounded. Oh wow, look at this too. Okay, so that's the way. All right, so that's again the wonder, amazement, astoundingness I wonder what word that is. That her parents were astounded. Let's kind of, we can pick up a Greek word here, right? Let's see. Yeah, this is it. This is the word right here. And you can kind of see it in this bottom if you want. But existemi is the verb. I thought that's a different one than normally shows up. So that's an interesting, just kind of a word of being amazed. I wonder if it's the same one in our story here that they were. It's definitely not the fear one in the demoniac story. Pretty sure that's not. What verse was that? Okay, that was in. Yeah, here it is. This is verse 36. Or 35 rather. They're afraid, and that's like a. It's just a word for being afraid, like a phobia. Okay, I knew there was like a phobeo here. Phobia is the kind of root of that, right? So they're afraid. Anyway, all that's present there. So we get it in the storm. We get it in Jairus' daughter. So we get these kind of pictures of people being kind of amazed by Jesus. They're kind of amazed by what he's able to do in these situations. And then also they're amazed by what they see in this demoniac. So that's kind of a theme through this whole section. So we kind of want to hold that in our heads and just, it may not bring it up. We may not bring up those other stories, but this kind of idea that, and there's something else I wanted to point out, right? So notice here that it says they were afraid, but what is it that they're afraid of? Has something particular? What has happened that is like particularly terrifying in this story? What they actually see. Notice what I pick up in verse 35. People came out to see what had happened. When they came to Jesus, they found the man from whom the demons had gone, sitting at the feet of Jesus, clothed and in his right mind, and they were afraid. And that seems backwards to me, right? Like, why are they afraid in this verse, right? Their reaction is it's backwards. Normally, you would think that they would be afraid when they saw somebody that was like being possessed with demons. That's not the normal order of things, right? Being under the influence of like 1,000 evil spirits is not normal, or it shouldn't be. We shouldn't consider that normal, right? For them, these people have kind of accepted that about this man. They've given up on him, right? Like he's been chained up, he's been tied up in the grave. He just kind of lives out here, in the. Let's see. It said, for a long time he had worn no clothes. He did not live in a house, but in the tombs. Okay. Wow. Oh, look at this though. It says it calls him a man of the city. He's a man of the city who had demons in him. Wow, what an interesting description. So even though he's really living kind of outside of the community, right? He's living out in the tombs. The text calls him he actually belongs to the community. It's kind of an interesting thought. But what is the community doesn't really have anything to do with him, right? They've kind of abandoned him to these demons, and he's, I guess, dangerous enough that they just they want him around, and so he lives outside, right? So they come out there and they find him though, and they find that he's not demon possessed anymore, or it doesn't seem like he is. Instead, it says he's clothed in his right mind, and that's what they freak out about. So, which makes me wonder. This might be something fun to play with in the sermon space. It might be useful to say that, like, Jesus is a fact. It makes this man normal or whole. Let's say it makes him whole. But for the people there who had kind of lived with this guy that was so broken, normal wasn't whole for them, right? Or whole wasn't normal, I guess I should say. Like the image of a healthy person freaks them out. They are scared by a non-demon possessed. Am I doing that right? Double S. A non-demon possessed man, right? So they had accepted the influence of these demons, even though it was still scary and dangerous. They had accepted it so much that when they saw that there was something that had taken those things away, they respond by being afraid. I mean, think about that for a second, right? Like they were so used to accommodating that evil presence, that in accommodating that they had kind of they weren't ready to witness this man being whole. I think there's something. I think that could preach. I think there's something that could be a good message for the church there. Because in fact, they're so afraid that they asked Jesus to leave. Wow. How about that? So I wonder, I wonder if, obviously that cuts Jesus off from being able to do other stuff in that city, right? I wonder if there's something here to be said about like a people that is just afraid of change. They're afraid of, even though Jesus has done nothing bad, he's only done something good. They're afraid of what kind of, like how he's going to stir things up when he comes to the city. All right, that's, yeah. Maybe we could think about them being scared of more healing, and which makes me think, I wonder if there's, I don't know, this may be too speculative to really include in the sermon space, but like, what if we kind of speculate that there's other demonic activity at work too, right? Like there's other, like this guy, his demons make him look insane. Right? But I wonder if there are people who are under the influence of demons and Satan and evil in other ways, in more subtle ways. I think fear works like that a lot, right? So what I'm wondering is that, like, is it also a demonic influence for them to send Jesus away? And that's what demons would do, right? They would say, wait a minute. Oh man, listen to this. Oh, that's interesting. So when Jesus comes, the demon-possessed man comes and says, or the demons say, "What do you have to do with me?" Right? I beg you, do not torment me. Which is, they're saying, the demons are saying, "Leave me alone, leave us alone, just let us have our way with him." And then, at the end of the story, yeah. So this is the connection that I'm thinking about, right? Wow, think about this. So at the end of the story, it is, it's the crowd. It's all the people of the surrounding country they ask Jesus to leave them, for they were seized with great fear, which is a way of them saying, leave us alone, right? I mean, aren't they really saying something similar to what the demon said there? Huh. Maybe it is fair to talk about how the fear that is present in the people is especially when it's compelling them to like get rid of Jesus. I mean, surely that's just as much a work of evil as what had happened to this other guy, right? I don't know, but that's at least an idea to kind of chew on a little bit and see if it has a place in the sermon over the whole. So I'm gonna take a note about that, right? Let's say something. Just kind of put a little note to myself about. I'm gonna keep that separate a little bit. Yeah, let's just say that the people of the region have a similar reaction to the demons. They say, leave us alone, right? I think that's a fair way I'm pretty sure that's a pretty fair way of describing their interactions with Jesus. So that's a pretty compelling little thing too. We may be able to kind of work on this. Now, when we think about what's changed, we haven't really talked about the things that are changing for this guy. We'll see if we see anything that picks us up in the very beginning of the story. All right. We don't have a lot of descriptions of him. I think there's some more maybe description in Mark's version, perhaps. All it says really is that he had worn no clothes and did not live in a house but tombs. Oh yeah, it does too. And then it says, he was kept under guard and bound with chains and shackles. He would break the bonds and be driven by the demons into the wilds. Yeah. So the demon sends him out into the wilderness. Yeah, that's kind of the desert wilderness kind of word. The eremos. The demon sends him into the wilderness, but notice that like Jesus at the end of the story, Jesus sends him back home. Jesus says, "Return to your home." Sends him back into the city. So the demon sends him into the wilderness, but Jesus sends him home. We might say that the demons isolate, but I don't know. Is it fair to say that Jesus seeks? Yeah, I mean, he goes back into the city, right? So Jesus puts him back in the community. Is that fair enough to say that? I don't know. Maybe not. I don't know. But he does. He goes in and he proclaims what Jesus had done for him. Now this is interesting, right? What is it at the beginning? At the beginning he says, what's he afraid of Jesus? Or the demons say, they said, do not torment us. But the man talks about what Jesus has done for him. So, there's kind of an emphasis there. Like at the beginning, he's kind of afraid of Jesus. at the end, he's come to kind of realize that Jesus has given him some wholeness. So, at any rate, okay, there's just a couple of pieces here that are started. It sounds like my kids have just entered the house, so my nice and peaceful recording is about to change significantly. At any rate, this is kind of what I wanted to do. I just want to share this a little bit, and we may do this from time to time. I'm going to try to take some of those things that were collected here. And hey, Goose, you want to come say hi? I'm on the there's nobody on it right now, or nobody that you can see. But I'm going to ask her how her day went at school.
Good.
I mean, I'm going to sit and ask you. I want to hear about what all happened at school, and I will see you all later. Okay? Bye-bye.